What's up, YouTube? It's Joe Catchpolia sitting on the couch, making some money, investing in fractional real estate online, as usual. Super late getting this video out, even though I think this property really just came out yesterday or maybe the night before. Mogul's properties are just selling out super quick, and this is the earliest I've had a chance to sit down and actually do this video. You can see there's only $26,000 remaining. Hopefully, if you're interested in this and you found this video, you still have a chance to buy it, but it could be sold out. Even if it is, I'm still recording these videos because Mogul's going to open their secondary market this year, or at least that's their, what they've said. And, maybe when you're looking at it at that point in time, you'd want to come back and take a look at this video. Of course, there'd be some new info at that time, but, I think it's worth just putting this out there anyway. Okay, so I have no idea how to say this. The Chalamet, something like that. The Chalamet. I don't know. I feel like I used to live near Chalamet, and it was spelt something like that. Anyway, it's a 10-bedroom, 3-bathroom Padsplit in Atlanta, Georgia. 2,400 square feet, and this is important. We're going to talk about this when we get to the valuation. I am going to go through this video just really quickly. It's very similar to a lot of the other deals that we've looked at from them recently. Purchase price is $375. Projected rental income $57,000, and so that gives us a year one yield of 7.8. So not a fantastic. It seems like their yields are just sort of creeping down. They're putting out a lot of volume. It's probably I know it's not easy to find deals. This is still a good deal compared to a lot of the platforms we see out there. Before I forget, please like and subscribe. In the description of this video, I have links set up to all the places where I'm currently investing in fractional real estate online. Some of those are affiliate links. Some of them will give you some money when you sign up. Please do your own due diligence on those platforms and on any properties you see on there. Just because I'm using the platform doesn't mean that you should. I have money on some platforms that I think is probably, I'm probably losing money. And I've bought properties, again, that have lost money. So, you want to do your own due diligence, really understand what you're buying. On average, I'm doing very well with fractional real estate, but I just want you to, to give you that word of caution. Also, in the description of this video, there is a link to the Discord that I've set up where we have over 200 participants who are, talking about fractional real estate investing on a bunch of different platforms. If you looked in the Mogul thread, there was a good discussion about this property. Brad sharing some of the, some of the AI discussion that he's had about the property. He likes to use that for due diligence. Ike shared some links. So, especially when these are selling out so quickly, and I might not always have a video out, and you're looking for some other people's thoughts on the property, feel free to jump in the Discord, talk to people. And there has been some good discussions. Okay, let's see. What do I want to talk about this one? Let's go through the easy stuff first. FEMA flood map. Looks good to me. Does not appear to be in any flood zone. Being an unshaded X zone is what it looks like. That's what I'm always looking for. The spot crime map looks really good to me for Atlanta. Like you can see, this is pretty zoomed out, and it was about 2 or 3 weeks, maybe a little over 3 weeks in time to get to this. So when we zoom right in, there's nothing right in this subdivision, which is nice. Seems it shows it on this map. It's important for Padsplit. We are close to a bus stop. It's not super close like some of the others, but I think that's, perfectly reasonable for, to walk. You can see I'm gonna just really power through this video because one, I don't have a lot of time right now. I want to get it out. And it's also, probably by the time you see this, there's a chance it's already sold out. So one of the things I think is interesting, if you look at this picture, this is a garage, or actually it looks more like maybe just a carport. And here it looks like that, it's closed in. And so I believe this is where the extra 400 square feet comes from, because you can see this is 2,400 square feet, but Zillow thinks it's only 2,000 square feet, right? So we've got almost 400 new square feet. Is it 400? Not quite, right? So 350. So that's one of the things. So, I talk about the valuation a lot on these pad splits, and I don't always mention it, but, I want to remind you that we do typically have appraisal contingencies in these contracts. I didn't actually look through this one yet to see if it does. My guess is they did, because they've been using it in the Atlanta market quite a bit. So, even though all the third-party sites and when you're looking at it at $1 per square foot, it seems like we're overpaying. They are getting appraisers relatively on a regular basis to say that it's worth what they're paying for it, right? And we've seen in some instances when they didn't, they walked away from those deals, which is exactly what I would want them to do. So you can see, that you have the brick in here. I thought this was interesting. This is, I think maybe that's this bedroom here, and this one, or is that the same bedroom twice? I think that's the same bedroom twice, but I think this is part of the converted garage right there. Not 100% sure on that. Obviously it's something that if you had questions, you can always reach out to Mogul. They are still very responsive, even though they're growing super quickly. So I think that's a good thing. Okay, what else was I going to tell you about this? Oh, and so, all right, valuation, it's estimate $257,800. Well, this is based in large part on it's sold, for $258 last year, right? It sold. Well, I don't know. I don't know how much actually Zillow is. Looking at that. Oh, didn't it sell? Maybe that's a sale, but I thought it was listed. I could be completely wrong about that. I thought I had found that this had sold just in November. But let's see. Okay. This is one. The seller just launched the property on Padsplit days ago. It's already, they've already, I'll show you the Padsplit listing, but it looks like they already filled up 6 rooms if they listed all 10, because it shows only 4 left. So I thought this was bought. Maybe it's not reflected on there. Sold. Oh yeah, right here. Sold November 7th, 2025. Okay, so yeah, this was just sold. Last sold for $258. But clearly, this seller, or this, who's selling it to us. Well, let's see. Did they renovate the property? I guess the property already looked fairly renovated, but they finished up this space into some extra bedrooms, which is adding livable square footage. And so, this is different than a lot of the other ones that we've seen, where when you actually, there we go. You have to scroll down to get this little thing to show up, but I know you can find it somewhere else on the page. But so if we do, 273,900, which is their estimate, divided by the old square footage, and then we multiply that price per square foot by the 2402, which is the new square footage, it gets you up to 320,000. Now, yes, we're still paying $55,000 more than that, but this gets us closer. And actually, I think, Realtor is giving us that highest number. If you do it, use this estimate, it's lower, and if you use Redfin estimate, it's lower. How fair is that with a property that, they're furnishing it, it's up and running on Padsplit. They clearly did a renovation. And, a lot of people think, it's real easy to just turn a garage into livable square feet. It's not necessarily the case, depending on, if electrical was already run out there, if AC is already run out there, although I think I saw window units in those bedrooms. Is that right? Where was that bedroom? Yeah, see, there is a window unit, so maybe they didn't add central AC to the addition. So that'd be interesting. I mean, that makes it cheaper, but obviously, you run electrical for all the outlets, for the light fixtures. So there's definitely some money spent there, and then converting. It was what was it, a 4-2? a 4.3. So, they presumably they converted additional rooms in the house to bedrooms, right? So there's some work there that, on top of this purchase price. Now, is it, $120,000 difference? That's what I don't know, right? And we have this discussion quite a few times now where the seller is the one who's made the conversion, has it up and running for us when we buy it. But I think this one looks a little bit better from, than the one we looked at yesterday from that perspective. The only other thing I want to talk about with this, and I am going through it super quick. Let's see. I don't see where, that you've got some parking here. Obviously, you could create more on this front lawn. You have street parking. Maybe 3 or 4 cars. Obviously, you can park on the opposite sides of the street or in front of neighbors' houses, but you don't necessarily want to do that. I mean, maybe this space here, it would end up being usable. But, our goal when we're operating pad splits is to be a good neighbor, right? We don't want to be, getting in trouble, having the neighbors complain to the city or whoever they can, right? So I am a little bit curious where the parking is, especially where this is a little bit further to the bus stop than some of the other ones. But yeah, let's find this is the pad split listing. Ike was nice enough to share that listing. Thanks for doing that, Ike. That's in the Discord. They say, yeah, there's still 4 open parking spots remaining. So the rooms that were rented, either they didn't claim a parking spot, which I think they must be charging them a little bit more for that, or what? I don't know. Or there's more parking than it looks like. Yeah, I think that's the other option, right? 4 rooms available from $143 a week. I looked, I used the pad split calculator again. It looks like maybe there are no rooms with en suites, and so 10 bedrooms, 3 bathrooms. That makes some sense. Because I played with it a little bit, adjusting that to see how do we get to the $57,000 in top line revenue. And this gets us pretty close. If we assume that every single room is a shared bathroom room, then we've got, $68,000 in top line revenue minus 10 gets us to 58. I think they're probably making some fine tuning adjustments. There is another calculator on Padsplit, and I don't know if it's when you go to the advanced settings or what, but where you can start to adjust like what each bedroom is actually like. And actually, we're seeing 143. That's interesting. What if we calculate earnings there? Because we could see those listings, right? We're at 143. Then view this breakdown. 63. So that doesn't make any sense because that would be then 54. But maybe some that they rented already were more. I don't know. But, it's getting us close enough that I feel like that's good confirmation because I have come to trust Mogul's projections, that they're giving us numbers that make sense. Now, obviously, just because I trust them doesn't mean that you should. And I have been hesitant to really take their word for it for these ones that don't have, a year of historical info. I don't even think I mentioned the returns on this one, 11.7 average yield and 12% IRR. Right in line with what we've seen from them lately. If you take away the refinance assumptions, 11 and 10.8. Again, still very much in line with what we've seen from them. 6.75% is what the loan is on this. We talked about that this one and the one yesterday. That's been the rate, even though the larger STR, they had a lower rate. So, whether it's a different market, different price point, I don't know why. But all of them are still assuming sometime in the next 5 years, we're going to be able to refinance down to 5%. And we've talked about that quite a bit, right? I think that's a relatively safe assumption. This is interesting. 7.77. I think I had said 7.8. I guess the other place is rounding it. Yeah, and I know I've mentioned this a lot, but 7.77% cash on cash, levered yield, as long as they do hit that projection, this is still better than, all the deals that we see on Arc 7 and Arrived and Real Bricks, as far as from a cash flow perspective, Collab, all of them, right? All the ones that I talk about and have shared info on. Of course, you have to believe that they're going to get there. So far, I still do. I still think that they're doing a good job. With that, we have had some hiccups with some of the short-term rentals. Although most of the ones that I own haven't gone a full year, so we'll have to see where that goes. I think actually today we'll get some dividends, and I'll do a video update, and we'll see where that goes as well. Hopefully, we've got some good news there. I don't know yet. I haven't actually looked at my portfolio, and maybe they haven't even trickled in yet. Anyway, that's really everything I wanted to talk about this. I wanted to, the big thing is I just wanted to make sure people noticed that it does look like they added livable square feet. I want to also remind you that, one of the things that Mogul has stated that, their part of their due diligence is making sure that all of the work like this has been completed with permits and is, done the way that it should be. So I haven't been going back and checking those things because it is not easy in most cities to verify if you're not the one buying the property and you're not gonna, you're not willing to, you've got to typically call the city. Some places you can find it online. I've found that most of the markets that we've looked at, you can't. But Mogul hasn't given me any reason to doubt when they say things like that's part of their process, right? And so, I'm always concerned when you do see a big renovation, especially, is this new livable square footage? Well, they're saying that it is, and that, part of what they do is they check on that. It's during their contingency period. Now I think that's really, you can see this was 30,000, but I think it's actually, 26,000 is what's remaining. They're selling out shockingly fast. I can tell some people are getting a little bit of FOMO, right? Like they're seeing them go fast and they want to invest in another Mogul property. And hopefully that's not you. Hopefully you are taking the time to do your due diligence to make sure this is a deal that you want to buy. One of the things that I get worried about is because Mogul is selling out so fast, and their yields are creeping lower, or their projected yields are creeping lower, and people are still just buying them very quickly. It doesn't really give them any motivation to get better and better deals, right? Like if they can do volume at a certain level, of course, I don't think they're going to pass up the better deals as they come along, but they might not necessarily have the motivation to really push sellers. Because, looking at a lot of these deals and like, okay, I think this is one that they said this is a off-market deal. Maybe they said that in the email, but I'm pretty sure they said this was an off-market deal that was just brought straight to Mogul. A lot of times when you get an off-market deal when you're going directly to the seller with your own marketing, that's when you get good deals. Like a lot of people realize those are good deals. If it's an off-market deal, it's just like a broker or agent brought it to you, because you've networked with them, but they never actually listed it. In those instances, they're often bringing it to who they think is going to pay the most for it, right? If they think, because they're looking out for the best interest of the seller in those instances. I don't know exactly that that's the situation here. But we haven't been getting the type of off-market discounts that I expect when you hear off-market deal, right? A lot of people think that just means they're going to get a good deal. Well, I don't necessarily think that's the case. It does seem like there's certain sellers and brokers that have identified Mogul as, hey, that's a great buyer for us. One, I think, they know it's somebody who's going to execute on it now, right? We have a track record in certain markets of buying. But also, I do just really worry that we're starting to overpay for some of these. That's why I've passed on a whole bunch of them. Again, if I didn't already have several pad splits in this market, this might be one that I pick up because it's not the difference in price is not so great that I can't picture that the renovation and the additional bedrooms and that work might have really cost us about that much to get there, especially, once we look at the added square footage. But it's not exciting enough for me to want to buy this one right now, where I do already have several in this market. And I have slowed down my buying on here because I want to see what happens when the secondary market opens up. I also have talked to several people recently who plan to launch platforms in the next couple of months, and so next 4 or 5 months at least. And so at a certain point, maybe I'm going to be experimenting with a lot more sites. It seems like fractional real estate's been taking off, and we're going to see maybe some pretty, some at least one VC backed one, but well, actually a couple that I talked to recently that seems like that's going to be the case. But really, as the ecosystem grows, and I want to experiment with all of them, but I don't know. I might slow down on some of the ones that I already have a little bit of a track record on as well. Mogul being one of my favorites, I will continue to cover the properties when I can, but when they're just selling out so quick, and I just still am catching up from having been sick for a couple of weeks, that it is, this is it. This is the whole video I'm going to do today. Sorry that this is, I don't know that I went as in depth as I would like to on this property. Hopefully you guys are digging in a lot of different ways that I like to see, Brad sharing how he's using AI to sort of answer questions about properties. I would caution you to really double check the assumptions that they make whenever you do that, because sometimes I've seen some sort of weird stuff, some weird outputs, because it's just using what it finds on the internet and isn't necessarily catching everything. I think that's really all I want to talk about. Thanks for everybody who has been helping out, especially, and several of you are messaging me when these properties show up. I appreciate that as well, because I've got lots of other stuff going on. Don't always notice them right away. I am going to try to do a little bit better on these as they come out, but I can't make any promises. That as far as like getting to these sooner, it is mind blowing that they're able to sell out $200,000 in equity, and then a day later list a new property and have another $200,000 they're selling out. And then what are we doing here with? I'm just curious how much they've sold of this one. Only $152,000 remaining of the Dolly, which means they sold what? Wow. Okay, so over 500,000, right? Like there's just a lot of demand for their product. And I get it, because I think that they're superior to a lot of the other ones out there. But man, people, that many people that are jumping on it so quickly, I really do wonder, are people making prudent investment decisions, or if they've just decided, I'm just going to buy some of everything that Mogul puts out. And I don't hate that strategy because of who Mogul is, right? Who they have, they have actual real estate experience. They're not just a marketplace. They're not just putting out random deals. They're not a company that's just buying like, very average, whatever, so I think that it's a reason, I think it's reasonable to just sort of take that approach. I mean, it's similar to what I'm doing on ground floor. I think the big difference is at the moment, there's not the same opportunity for such wide diversification over here. Although I guess over time, maybe there will be. And so if you can get if you get pieces of a ton of their properties, maybe that starts to make sense too. Provided that, at the same time, I still want to really dig into every one of these, because they are going to be long-term investments, and there's definitely been deals that I think are significantly better than their average, and they've had some that I think are worse than their average. Some of those actually fell out and didn't get closed on, so I thought that was really good to see. Anyway, I'm going to stop rambling. Sorry about that. Until next time, I'm just going to keep making mistakes so that you don't have to.